Welcome back to the Evan Phillips Show, guys. This is part 2 of how to purchase a investment property. I hope you guys enjoy the second part of this video. Let's get started. I hope you guys took away from the other video all of the financial things that you need to do to get yourself ready to embark on this new endeavor in your life and get that passive income flowing. So let's get into this. All right, so now that you've got everything together financially, you're set, you're ready to go, you've got the funds ready to go, and you're ready to start looking for an investment property. Now, I do recommend finding a good realtor, a really good realtor that's going to help you. But I also recommend doing your homework as well. Your realtor cannot do all of the work for you. He's going to help you in the area that you're looking for, but you need to know what kind of property you're looking for and all the other details. So let's get into that. So there's some things you want to consider in regards to purchasing a property. Some of those things are the return on investment, the rental market, similar rentals in the area that you're looking to purchase the property, so the comps. Some states have limitations on what you can actually charge for rent. I happen to be in the beautiful state of Florida, so I don't have to worry about any of that. So we're good here. But you do want to check your state guidelines to see if there are limitations on what you can charge for rent. So some of the things that you're going to want to consider is clearly the return on investment, guys. You don't want to purchase a property that's more expensive than what you can actually make on a rental. You don't want to just make the mortgage payment either, right? You want that passive income. So this means that you guys are going to need to find the right property, guys. You can't just buy any property and make it an investment. So I would definitely encourage you to start learning a little bit more about the location, where you are, where you're living. There's some sites that we can use. So I'm going to go over some examples on how that looks and how we can kind of gauge the value of a property and what it's worth and if it makes sense. So we'll look at some of that today too. Now, there are a lot of great tools out there for us to utilize. One of the tools I utilize is Zillow. And if you haven't heard of Zillow, then where have you been? I'm not really sure. My dog's getting angry too. See, he even knows you should know what Zillow is. Isn't that right, Benji? We're going to jump on Zillow and see what that looks like. So we're just looking at a random property here, and we're just going to kind of look and see what we think the home value is, right? So this estimate shows us about $316,800 as a value. And it'll give you a range right over here if you guys look in this area. So 291 to about 345,000. You can see the last 30-day change here as far as it looks like it's increasing in price, and your estimate per square foot. So that's going to give you an idea of the property and where we think the value is, right? So this is just showing you some great information. Now, if we go further down in Zillow, it's going to give us some more information, right? So let's go down to the price history. This will show us some information about the property. So we can see that it's been listed for rent. They are making about $1,525 per month on rent on this property. That's going to give you kind of an idea. Now let's look at a little bit more of a complex history. This was sold 3/18/2015, right? So it was sold for $148,000, guys. Take a look at that. So if this house was sold if they held this home and they bought it for $148,000 and they held on to it, they'd probably owe less than $100,000, and it would be worth today about $316,000. So you guys can see that's an amazing return on investment for that property. Now imagine that they paid nothing for it and they had rented it out during that time. So they would basically be walking into a perfect situation where they're walking away with some passive income. And then, 6-7 years later down the road, they're walking away with a couple $100,000. Sounds like a good deal to me. So let's look further down here at some other important things that we're going to want to look at. So here is the public tax history. This shows you what your taxes are, right? So this is going to be very important especially if you guys are looking to buy in an area where they're doing a lot of development and building new schools and things like that. That's going to be super, super important because these taxes will significantly increase if that kind of thing is happening in the area. So you're going to want to make sure you look into those sort of things as well. And some of these are just, they're great tools to help you look and see, what schools are in the area and so forth. So you guys can go on Zillow and read about those sort of things. All right, guys. So here is another home that's in the area. We can kind of see that it's, the value is close. This one's a little bit more. Let's look at when this was purchased and sold. So I can see there was a recent sale here. So this person held on to the property, but this just gives you guys an idea of why it makes sense to buy a property in the first place and then sell it down the road, and you're going to earn that equity back. So I would definitely recommend making that passive income and paying down the liability during the ownership of that property. All right, guys, so let's look at this last page here. This will just show us some homes for rent and what you would want to look at. So you can see in this area, these homes are pretty close for the rental payments that they're receiving monthly. Right now, obviously, if you own a bigger home, you're going to want to make around 1.1% of the value of the home in rent monthly. So this is why you're going to see some variation in the amount that people are charging. So for a bigger house like this one's 1,600 square feet, this one's 2,500, and it's going for $2,750. So I think these are priced reasonably for the value. And this is why rent increases, and sometimes it becomes difficult to continue to pay rent if you're in that situation. But when you're going about your rental properties, if you need to make $3,000 a month and you're not paying attention to what the cost for a home goes for in a specific area, sometimes it may not be the exact area that you live in that's going to profit you the net income that you're looking to make. So make sure you take a look at that as well. So even if it's where you need to buy a home, 25 miles or 30 miles away from where you live in order to get what you're looking to make income-wise as well. Then you also want to take a look, like I said earlier, at the fees in the community, right? Because if your mortgage is $1,100, but you've got a $500 HOA and $700 in taxes, it's going to be really hard to make a profit on that property with all the other monthly expenses that are associated with that address. So make sure you're taking these things into consideration, guys, because this will definitely cause an issue in making the amount of money that you're going to want to make. All right, guys, so there's a couple more things I want to add in here before we end this episode. There's also costs you want to think about, right? Property management. Who's going to manage your property, right? If you're working full-time 10 hours a day and you're not going to be able to get to a home if there's a leak, right? You're going to have to hire a property management company. So be prepared to think about these sort of things. Also, think about breakdowns and repairs. Are you ready to take care of this kind of thing? A property management company will help you with tenant background screening, with collecting payments and things like that. Or if you're savvy enough, you can take that on yourself. So I'm not trying to discourage anyone from doing this, but I am making sure that you understand what comes with it. So we all love that net profit at the end of the month, and we love that passive income. But we also have to keep in mind, guys, anytime you're in business, there's risk associated with business, and you have to be aware of that. So I personally recently had a flood, and this is not the first flood I've ever had in a home, in an investment property. And I'll tell you, it's definitely work, right? You've got to work with the tenants. You've got to keep them happy. You've got to get people in and out of the house. There's a lot of communication and scheduling. So, make sure that if you're not going to be available to do this, you consider the cost of a property management company that will be able to assist you in this process. I hope that this has given you guys some sort of help in considering whether this is something you want to do. And if it is something that you've considered you want to do, hopefully it's given you some insight on about what this looks like. So if you guys have any questions or there's something specifically that you want to talk about more, please leave that in the comments below, guys. I can make videos specifically on those items. These last two videos are just to serve a purpose to give you insight and help you decide whether this is something that you can do or want to do. So I would definitely recommend it. It's definitely been a beneficial, successful thing for me. Like I said, take these things into considerations, guys. The people who are not successful in this, they didn't do research. They got into properties, number one, they couldn't afford. And they've gotten into properties where there's not a lot of rent to be made, right? So you have to get into the right property where the amount of money makes sense. So, I hope you guys have really taken something away from this. I know there's a lot in this, a lot packed in. So if you guys have specific questions on things, let me know in the comments below. And as always, I'll be more than glad to answer those questions for you guys. Once again, thank you guys for watching this episode of The Evan Phillips Show, and you guys have a great weekend.